Good morning, afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to be here today with all of you, and I want to start by asking you a simple question. When people ask you, what do you do? How do you respond? Maybe you talk about your job title, the company you work for, or the kind of work you do. But let me ask you, is that really who you are? Is your job title, your position, the work you do, truly the essence of your worth? For many of us, it's so easy to define ourselves by the work we do. We take pride in it. Our jobs become our identity, and the lines blur between who we are and what we do. But I want to challenge that narrative today. Never tell people what you do. It's not about hiding your work or pretending it doesn't matter. It's about stepping beyond the surface level answers. It's about inviting people into something deeper, something that transcends a job description. Our worth is not defined by our job title. In our society, it's almost automatic for people to ask, what do you do, as a way to introduce themselves or to make small talk? When you respond, the assumption often is that your job title or your profession is a reflection of your worth or value. We've been conditioned to believe that what we do for a living directly correlates with who we are as individuals. The more prestigious the title, the more validation we receive, right? But the truth is, this is a deeply limiting and flawed view. Our worth is not defined by our job title, ... Think about it. If we were to take away the roles, the titles, the tasks, the performance reviews, who would we be? Would we still matter? Would we still have purpose? The answer is yes, we would. In fact, we are so much more than the work we do, the positions we hold, or the accolades we receive. Our essence is not confined to a profession or a job description. Our worth is inherent. It's not dependent on our job performance, how much we earn, or how many hours we work. Our value lies in the very fact that we exist. We are complex, multidimensional beings with the capacity to love, to feel, to grow, and to impact the world in countless ways, none of which are limited to what we do for a paycheck. The problem with defining our worth by our job title is that it creates an illusion of success based solely on external markers. We start measuring ourselves by comparison. She's a doctor, and I'm just a teacher, or he's the CEO, and I'm only an entry-level employee. This way of thinking leaves us constantly chasing approval and recognition, only to realize that even the most prestigious job titles don't bring us lasting fulfillment. In fact, many of us have had experiences where we've achieved the career milestones we once thought would bring happiness, only to find ourselves feeling unfulfilled, burnt out, or questioning our purpose. This is because external success is temporary. It's a fleeting validation, like a trophy that collects dust over time. If we tie our sense of self-worth to something external like a job title, we are setting ourselves up for disappointment. Instead, our true worth is based on who we are inside, on our values, our relationships, our ability to show up with kindness and compassion, our capacity to learn, to grow, and to contribute. It's about how we show up in the world, not the title we wear. We are worthy because we are human, and our humanity cannot be reduced to a job description. In addition, when we define our worth by our work, we risk neglecting the other areas of our lives that are just as meaningful, if not more so. I think about the roles we play that are often unseen or undervalued: being a loving partner, a caring friend, a supportive parent, a mentor, a community volunteer, or someone who simply shows kindness to a stranger. These roles are what make us whole, and these roles are not measured by a title or a paycheck. If we start to see our worth as a reflection of our internal qualities, like our integrity, our creativity, our empathy, and our ability to inspire others, then we can begin to appreciate ourselves for all that we are beyond our job. Our worth becomes non-negotiable, not based on what we do, but simply because we are. Furthermore, when we allow our job titles to define us, we also open ourselves up to the vulnerability of losing that identity. If our career is taken from us, if we're laid off, or if we experience a shift in our profession, who are we then? How do we maintain our sense of self-worth if we no longer have the job that defined us for so long? The truth is, we don't need to lose our job to lose ourselves. But if we're able to disentangle our identity from our profession, we become more resilient in the face of change. We realize that our worth doesn't diminish with the loss of a job, it stays intact. because our worth is tied to our being, not our doing. This concept also gives us the freedom to explore and embrace new possibilities. When we release the idea that our worth is tied to what we do, we allow ourselves to step into new chapters without the pressure of living up to a title. We can shift careers, take on new challenges, or explore passions we've always wanted to pursue, all without the anxiety that we're somehow less than because we're not following the traditional career path. We can redefine success on our own terms based on what brings us joy, fulfillment, and meaning, not based on societal standards. In this way, untangling our self-worth from our job titles not only liberates us from the stress of comparison, but it also empowers us to live more fully, authentically, and aligned with our values. As you reflect on this, ask yourself how much of your self-worth is wrapped up in your career or job title. What would it feel like to free yourself from that? What would it look like to start defining your worth by the internal qualities you value in yourself, your resilience, your creativity, your kindness, your capacity to grow? It's time we stop allowing external circumstances like job titles or professional roles to dictate our sense of worth. Instead, let's embrace the truth that we are worthy simply because we exist, because of who we are, not what we do. And in doing so, we'll find deeper fulfillment, a more resilient sense of self, and a richer connection to others. Remember, your worth is not defined by your job title. It's defined by the unique, irreplaceable person you are, no matter what you do for a living. The power of vulnerability. When we hear the word vulnerability, it's natural to think of it as something we should avoid. After all, vulnerability is often associated with weakness, with exposing parts of ourselves that could lead to judgment, criticism, or even rejection. But here's the truth: vulnerability is one of the most courageous and powerful choices we can make. It's the raw material of authentic connection, growth, and self-acceptance. What vulnerability really means. Vulnerability is the willingness to show up as you truly are, imperfections and all. It means letting people see who we are beyond the mask of perfection or control we often wear in public. It's revealing parts of ourselves that are tender, uncertain, or still in progress. And while it may feel uncomfortable, vulnerability is where real connection and growth happen. Think of a time when you felt deeply connected to someone. Chances are that moment involved vulnerability. Maybe you shared a personal struggle, opened up about your fears, or revealed a part of yourself that you usually keep hidden. And in that moment, there was likely a feeling of deep, authentic connection, one that couldn't have existed if you were only presenting the perfect version of who we are beyond work. In today's fast-paced world, so much of our identity is tied to what we do for a living. Work is a significant part of our lives, and often it's what others first notice about us. We're asked what we do, we define ourselves by our roles, and we measure success by the status of our careers. But is our work really who we are? Let's start with a powerful truth: we are so much more than our jobs. Who we are goes far beyond the daily tasks, responsibilities, or job titles we hold. Our essence, our passions, our dreams, and our values make us who we are. These are the parts of ourselves that remain, even if our work roles shift or change entirely. Our passions and hobbies. Beyond work, we have passions that bring us joy, creativity, and fulfillment. These are the things we do not for recognition, salary, or success, but simply for the love of doing them. I think about the joy of playing a musical instrument, the creativity unleashed in painting or writing, the satisfaction in gardening or cooking a new recipe, or the sense of adventure when traveling to new places. These are parts of us that exist outside the boundaries of work. They're expressions of our inner selves. These passions are windows into our souls, revealing what makes us feel most alive. Our hobbies and interests remind us that life is more than productivity and achievements. They bring balance to our lives, giving us space to unwind and reconnect with ourselves. For instance, when we take time to explore art, sports, reading, or community projects, we're nurturing parts of ourselves that aren't tied to professional gain. These pursuits contribute to our happiness, and happiness itself is a worthy goal. Our relationships. Another essential part of who we are beyond work is found in our relationships. We are partners, parents, children, friends, and mentors. These relationships define us in ways that work cannot. At the end of the day, it's the love we share, the bonds we build, and the memories we create with the people in our lives that, in a world that often equates self-worth with professional success, it's easy to slip into the trap of defining ourselves by our jobs. We're constantly surrounded by subtle messages telling us that our value is measured by our careers. The higher the title, the more respect, the bigger the paycheck, the more admiration. But when our identity becomes entangled with our work, we unknowingly carry a heavy burden. This burden of a job-defined identity can limit our sense of self, distort our priorities, and leave us vulnerable to feeling lost when our careers change. The pressure to perform. When we define ourselves by our job titles, the pressure to succeed can feel overwhelming. Our work becomes more than just a part of our life, it becomes a measure of our self-worth. We may push ourselves to work longer hours, take on more responsibilities, or climb the corporate ladder faster, not because we're passionate about it, but because we feel that our value depends on it. This constant striving to be more at work can lead to burnout, stress, and anxiety as we're driven by a fear of inadequacy or failure. For example, if we see ourselves primarily as a successful lawyer or a top-level manager, any mistake, setback, or criticism in that role can feel personal. We take professional feedback as a reflection of our entire self, rather than a part of our job performance. This constant need to protect and prove our work-based identity can prevent us from taking risks, exploring new paths, or even admitting areas where we need help. When we place all our self-worth in our job, we lose the freedom to learn, make mistakes, and grow. The vulnerability to change. Life is full of uncertainties, and career paths are no exception. An economic downturn, a restructuring, or a change in personal priorities can drastically alter our professional lives. For those who derive their sense of self-worth from their job, these changes can feel devastating. Imagine someone who identifies strongly as a successful corporate executive or a respected teacher. If that job is lost due to factors beyond their control, their sense of identity can crumble, leaving them with feelings of inadequacy, insecurity, or even shame. When our identity is wrapped up in our work, any disruption to our career can feel like a loss of self. We might struggle with feelings of purposelessness, questioning who we are without the job that once defined us. This vulnerability leaves us emotionally exposed to the normal ups and downs of work, making us feel like we're losing ourselves with every professional setback. Narrowing of potential. Another aspect of the burden of job-defined identity is that it narrows our vision of who we could be when we cling to connection beyond titles. In a world where introductions often start with, "What do you do?" it's no wonder that we tend to see ourselves and others through the lens of job titles. These labels provide an easy way to categorize people: lawyer, teacher, artist, engineer. Titles give us context, but they can also limit our understanding of one another. True connection, the kind that resonates with depth and authenticity, requires that we look beyond the roles people play in their professional lives. Real connection means seeing people not as job titles, but as individuals with unique passions, stories, and inner lives. Breaking through the surface. When we focus on titles, we only scratch the surface of who someone is. Titles tell us what people do, but they rarely tell us why they do it, how they feel about it, or who they are beyond their work. A title doesn't reveal someone's dreams, struggles, values, or personality quirks. It doesn't tell us what they care about, who they love, or what makes them laugh. Focusing solely on what people do for a living misses the deeper, more complex truth of who they are. Think about how many times you've met someone, learned their job title, and made assumptions based on that alone. We hear doctor and think, "Oh, they must be incredibly intelligent and serious," or we hear artist and assume they're creative but maybe unconventional. These assumptions can prevent us from discovering the full range of who people truly are. Real connection, however, asks us to push past these assumptions, to be curious about the person behind the role, and to embrace the complexity that exists beyond professional labels. Finding common ground outside of work. When we get to know someone beyond their title, we open ourselves up to discovering shared interests, values, and experiences that might not be obvious from a career label alone. For example, a software engineer might also be a passionate musician, a corporate executive might love hiking, and have a deep appreciation for nature redefining success. In our society, success is often measured by traditional metrics: a high-paying job, an impressive title, a large house, or a prestigious degree. From a young age, we're taught to strive for these external markers of achievement, and many of us come to believe that success means checking off a list of culturally accepted milestones. But what if this narrow definition of success doesn't capture what truly matters to us? What if real success has less to do with status and more to do with fulfillment, balance, and living in alignment with our values? Redefining success means stepping back to ask ourselves what genuinely makes us feel satisfied, happy, and whole. It's about looking beyond society's benchmarks to create a vision of success that feels meaningful and personal. This requires us to dig deep, challenging the assumptions we've inherited and asking ourselves questions like, what do I want my life to stand for? What brings me joy and fulfillment? What impact do I want to have on the people around me and on the world? The shift from external to internal validation. When we redefine success, we shift our focus from external validation, such as titles, income, and accolades, to internal validation. Rather than basing our worth on what others think, we begin to prioritize our own values and what feels right for us. Instead of asking, how do I look to others, we start asking, am I proud of the person I'm becoming? Success becomes less about meeting society's standards and more about living a life that feels authentic and fulfilling. For some, this might mean pursuing a career that makes a positive difference in the world. Even if it doesn't come with a big from the moment we enter school, we're given labels: student, achiever, leader, follower. As we grow older, these labels shift to new forms: college graduate, doctor, artist, parent, CEO, or any number of roles we step into. Labels can feel reassuring. They give us a quick answer to the question, who are you? And allow us to present an identity that society understands and accepts. But when we define ourselves too tightly by these labels, we start limiting our potential, boxing ourselves into expectations that might not truly reflect who we are or what we want from life. Letting go of labels is liberating. It allows us to step beyond the narrow confines of any single role and embrace a fuller, more nuanced sense of self. When we stop viewing ourselves as defined by one identity, be it our job title, our relationship status, our age, or any other label, we gain the freedom to explore the many parts of ourselves that exist beyond these roles. We begin to see that we're more than a career professional or parent or artist. We're multidimensional people with interests, passions, and complexities that extend far beyond a single identity. Freedom to evolve and grow. When we cling too tightly to labels, we restrict ourselves from evolving in new directions. Imagine someone who has always been labeled the successful business executive. If they define their worth solely through that label, they might feel trapped, unable to pursue other interests or passions out of fear of losing the success that label represents. But life is a journey of continuous growth, and each of us has the potential to change, to take on new challenges, and to follow different paths. When we let go of rigid labels, we give ourselves permission to adapt, to reinvent ourselves, and to seek out new paths without the fear of losing our identity. The freedom in letting go of labels means that we can embrace our evolution as a natural part of life. It allows a successful lawyer to become a writer, a teacher to explore a new passion for entrepreneurship, or a parent to rediscover old dreams. We're no longer beholden to the stories we used to tell ourselves. Instead, we can write new ones. Authenticity and self-acceptance. Labels often carry with them expectations both from society and from ourselves. We might feel pressure to live up to these labels, even if they no longer fit who we truly are. For instance, someone labeled as the strong one may feel unable to ask for help, even when they're struggling, for fear of breaking that image. Or someone seen as the creative type may feel pressured to always come up with original ideas, even if they're feeling uninspired. But when we release these labels, we invite authenticity into our lives. We can show up as we truly are without having to live up to anyone's expectations, including our own. Letting go of labels means accepting that we are allowed to be complex, to have moments of weakness or doubt, and to be multifaceted. It's a radical act of self-acceptance that says, I am enough as I am, and I don't need a label to prove my worth. Connecting more deeply with others. Letting go of labels also opens up our ability to connect with others in a more meaningful way. When we're not focused on presenting ourselves according to certain labels, we create space for genuine human connections. We're more open to sharing our true experiences, our vulnerabilities, and our dreams rather than performing a role or trying to fit a particular image. By shedding labels, we invite others to see us fully just as we are. And in turn, we start to see others beyond the labels they carry. We no longer see someone as just a doctor or just a stay-at-home parent. Instead, we see their unique qualities, their aspirations, and the human stories behind their titles. This shift allows for a level of empathy, openness, and trust that isn't possible when we're confined by the boundaries of labels. Living a life of true fulfillment. Ultimately, letting go of labels brings us closer to living a life of true fulfillment. When we define ourselves through rigid identities, we're often pursuing goals that align with those labels rather than our deeper desires. We might push ourselves in our careers because we think it's what's expected, or we might stick to familiar roles because we fear stepping outside our comfort zone. But when we're free from labels, we can pursue paths that genuinely resonate with who we are and what we value. A life without labels is a life where we're free to listen to our own inner voice rather than external expectations. It's a life where success is measured not by traditional standards, but by our own sense of purpose, joy, and growth. This is the kind of fulfillment that feels deeply satisfying because it's rooted in who we truly are, not in a label we wear. Rediscovering our true identity. Letting go of labels isn't about disregarding our roles or the accomplishments we're proud of. It's about allowing ourselves to be defined by more than any single one of them. When we release the need to fit a specific label, we open ourselves up to rediscovering our true identity, one that is flexible, resilient, and always open to change. So as we go through life, let's remember that we're not just our job titles, our social statuses, or the roles we play. We are unique, evolving individuals with rich, layered identities that can't be contained by a single word or category. When we let go of labels, we step into a life where we're free to be exactly who we are, to explore new versions of ourselves, and to connect with others on a deeper, more genuine level. That is the true freedom that comes from letting go of labels. As we reflect on the ways we define ourselves and measure our worth, let's remember that true success is not about titles, salaries, or status. It's about living authentically, cultivating meaningful relationships, and aligning our actions with our values. When we let go of society's narrow definitions of success, we free ourselves to pursue lives filled with purpose, joy, and connection. So the next time someone asks, "What do you do?" consider answering with something deeper, something true to who you are beyond your work. Because ultimately, success is not what we achieve on paper, it's who we become and the positive impact we leave on those around us. Thank you.